All right, so here we go. Now we'll go ahead and we'll talk about it. So we're going to be doing this Jack Skellington painting. It's going to be done in a stained glass style. I'm doing it akin to the same kind of way I did my my Sally. And I'm going to be using black, white, burnt umber, red ochre, cadmium orange, and cadmium yellow hue. For most of the work, I'll be doing some little pumpkins off to the side and some dark brown in the background, like he's back in like the holiday tree forest. But without further ado, I've got some weird light that's coming in my window right now, because for me now, unfortunately, it's 9:13 a.m. and it's officially full sunrise, and it hurts so hard. All right, so I want to start with painting in my background a little bit first, at least color blocking where things are gonna go, which is always my least favorite, but it's the most fulfilling part. Actually, no, we're not going to do it that way this time. We're going to change it up. We're going to start with the inside. And so I'm going to put black on my palette. And I'm going to put white on my palette. And then when I'm finished with areas, I'll probably go back over with the metallic white and black. Okay, so I'm going to start off with a wet angle brush. And I'm mostly just kind of outlining for right now. And you want to start at the top so you don't wind up putting your hands in your paint. And I'm using the thick brush. Hi! Aw, thank you! Have a great day at school! I'll post the final stuff to YouTube and whatnot later. I'll dump it in Discord. You'll see it. Go have fun, learn things. Love you. And now we're going to do this part. And when you're doing points, you don't want to go around the point. You want to go towards it from either end. It makes for a cleaner line. I'm not going to do all of my outline with this thick brush because this is a little thick for some of these smaller details, but it makes good sense for this area that I'm working on. And so we've kind of got the base of that part in. And now for here. And we're just going to keep outlining for the moment. That's too small for that area. And these don't have to be perfect. we still have to fill in and paint the area. And in fact, you do kind of want a little bit of variation, because remember, this is a Tim Burton character. None of this stuff is like perfectly symmetrical, or all of it's sort of whimsical. Okay, now we'll do here. It's obviously easier for me to do the left side because then my hand isn't in the way. If you are left-handed, this side will be easier and this side will be harder. And we're just kind of taking our time with this today. We are not speed rushing any part of this. All right, now let's rinse off our brush and set it aside. We're going to switch over to using a smaller brush for the remainder of the line work. And I am going to use my detail brush. And now for the other side, I did choose a more like sheepish expression for him because my spouse said that the Sally I painted looked a little sad. So Jack had to kind of match. And I'm not super worried about getting this part perfect right now. We'll be dealing with that later. And it's always a handy idea to keep a hairdryer around, so that way when you're done working in an area, you can dry it off without worrying about smearing your paint if you are apt to stick your hands in. I don't necessarily need to do this, but I don't want to forget where those details are. Right, and a couple of touch-up areas where I couldn't quite make the corners with the thicker brush I had. Okay, so we've got our basic outline in. And don't forget that you'll need the legs to extend all the way down to the bottom of your canvas. So for the moment, I'm going to rinse off my brush. And now I'm going to switch to the 1/2 inch flat. And I'm going to load a little bit of white and black. Well, actually, I'm going to dip my brush first. Your brush, you want it to be wet. I'm going to dip one corner in the black and one in the white. So I've got both colors loaded on my brush at the same time. And we're doing this because we want to create a like grayscale. We want this to not be uniform in color for black or white. And you'll continue to load it in the same way with both colors loaded on the brush. And if you feel like it's getting a little too mixed up from your back and forth, you can always throw a little bit of plain white in there. We're just creating a little bit of texture. I don't want to cover the work. And you'll want your motions to go in the direction of what you're working on. That's how it creates the texture. Like this would be made out of leather or fabric, and it would have a direction to it. And you can see where we've got lines of the white and the black. We don't necessarily need it to be very like crazy noticeable, because we do have to go back in and add our details, his stripes and everything else. Although this part is plain black, so we really just need it to look weathered. Like this is like, we're trying to convey that it looks like maybe bat wings or animal skin or something such. So we need there to be a fair amount of texture. So I'm just going to flick in some plain white in a couple of areas so that the light catches and it looks textured. And then similarly, a couple of areas that are just plain black. All right, so we've got that going in. Now let's do the other side. A little bit of paint etiquette. You never want your paint to go more than halfway down your bristles. If you find yourself loading that much paint on your brush, then you need to use a larger brush for what you're doing. It is bad paint etiquette to have paint clear up to where the bristles meet the metal. Okay, we got a little bit too gray there. Let's add some texture back. As for the reason I might go over with some metallic details is because Jack's already really dark, and I'm going to be placing him in a pretty dark setting. So I want it to still be like visible. So by adding some metallic, it will literally help catch light better. Okay, so we've got our little bat wings in there. All right, now let's go ahead and I need to reference an image where he's actually colored in, because I think this part remains white. So I just need to do a quick check. Make sure, I just need to do a sanity check. Yeah, okay, it remains white. Cool. I'm not totally insane. Okay. So now we'll fill in our little bat necklace. And him we will do almost principally black. And I'm going to do that with my detail brush. And I might use some like glow in the dark paint, like white paint on the eyes to fill them in. Although I probably will have to go back in and like re-enlarge the ears. When I traced the outline, it got a little too narrow. My brush was a little too thick. But that's okay. It helped us hold the space so that we don't forget that those areas exist. So we'll leave that area alone for now. Just a smidge of white towards the center, since I'm going to say that is our light source. So I'm just scumbling in a little bit there. All right, rinse that brush. Right, and I'm going to go back to my flat brush. Black and white in the corners. And now I'm going to do the cuff here. And the stripes for these come out sidewards. So I want to make sure that my strokes do the same. And I'm trying to like leave some white and gray in there. And I don't want to mess up my black outline too badly. All right, and now for this part. Oop, knew it was gonna happen at some point. I got black paint on my arm. Part of the lower areas are still wet. We'll chance it. It's okay. So what I'm doing here is I'm not moving the paintbrush back and forth. I'm just setting it down and doing horizontal strokes. So that way it forms like a natural line gradient. To help with the idea of the texture of those horizontal stripes that are going to go in after that area dries. Right, now we're going to do the same on the other side. Again, wet brush, white and black on both sides. And this will be a little harder. Normally I would just go stand on the other side, but then I'd be blocking your view entirely. So I'm going to apologize in advance because you won't necessarily, because of the angle, be able to see exactly what I'm doing, but I'm doing it the same way I did on the other side. Right, and then going down. Right, and I'm going to reload my brush. You don't want to necessarily put a whole lot of paint on there at once. Right, so we've got that side. You can see kind of how that texture is coming together. All right, now I want to say everything else is vertical stripes. Let me do a quick sanity check. All right, so the sleeves, on the sleeves, they'll go follow down the length of the sleeves. So basically vertical. Okay, cool. Duly noted. All right, so I want to do here first, and it's going to be harder to accomplish. So I'm going to do it in sections without getting my hands inside my own artwork. So I'm going to go down. Oh, I'm going to put more black on my brush. Again, I don't want to cover any of the work I've already done. And reloading my brush. I'm not going to go all the way down yet because I don't want to necessarily, when I go to do the sleeves, be in a hard position for getting the sleeves filled in. So I'm going to stop there for a moment. And now I'm going to do the other side, like right here, and go at least to the elbow, because then the elbow will have to change directions. Oop, there was paint on the butt of my brush. All right, so for this one, we'll go this way. Oh, picked up too much black. Okay, so now I'm going to go in and do a cross, do the same on this side now. Okay, and now we'll do the sleeve, the upper sleeve. And I'm sorry, I'm going to have to get in the way of the camera a little bit probably to do this. Well, maybe not. It's just a little more challenging to work from this angle. Right, reload my brush. And let's add some of our black back because it got a little painted out there. Okay, so we have that. Now we're going to continue going down the waistcoat to about where the hands are, and then we'll pick up the rest of the arm. Now for this angle, you want to make sure you're picking up the angle at exactly like that half mark where the bend is. Like as a straight line, like connecting the point to the point, because that's where the fold in your arm would be. And we lost a little bit of our white in there, so we'll throw a little back in. And for balance. All right, so we've got our texture happening. All right, now let's do it on the other side again. Oop, the color got mixed up a little too much. Let's try that again. All right, and then we'll do a little tuck here with the hands. All right, now we'll do the rest of the waistcoat. Right, black, white. I don't know why I bothered putting the circle in yet, honestly, though. It's a little too hard to paint around. We'll just cover it. We just won't forget that it exists. And I want to reference the spot for the tails. Where do the stripes go on the tails? All right, the tails look like they don't really have so much in the way of stripes, at least not from the, because you're seeing it from behind usually. But we're going to play pretend a little bit, in my opinion. I like the idea of it kind of being there, being consistent. So we'll follow the same. And picking up more paint. That might be a little too much white there. Let's tone that down a little bit. And now do the same on the other side. All right, so we've got our texture of our suit. Now we're going to do the pants. Oh yeah, I love that. I like that the pant leg for me for this painting is like exactly the width of the brush. Resist the urge to blend. Just fill it and load it and drag down. Okay, so we've got the basics in there. So now that I've got that done, I'm going to go ahead and fill in his eyes black, but I am going to make it lighter towards the center. Light is flashing into his skull. So I'm going to outline it in black and then go back in and kind of work some white in towards the center. All right, while it's still wet, a little bit of white. Just kind of working it into the center. And I'm just kind of scumbling the brush a little bit. So that way it looks kind of like a cavern. All right, now we'll do the same on the other side. We're not going to actually leave the canvas unadorned where the skin should be white. We're going to fill that in with white to add a little bit of gray because your skull would have texture to it. It wouldn't just be a solid color. And again, adding some white to the center and just kind of smearing it in. And now we'll rinse that brush and set it aside and do the same with the notes. And the mouth as well. I won't worry about any scumblies in the inside of the nose or the mouth right now. And I won't even add like the mouth lines until after I've done the face. All right, I'm gonna rinse my brush. And I'm gonna use my little square brush and I'm going, so you can see by this point my white has a little black kind of in it from where I was dipping back and forth. So I'm gonna use some of that white that has a little bit of that black on it to fill in here. It will naturally add just a light hue. And this is a great time to fix if you aren't happy with the shape of the head or any corrections you would want to make around the eyes and mouth, if your lines were too thick, whatever. Now is a good time for that. For the moment, we are just using this gray mixture to fill in the skull. We're going to go back in and whiten up certain areas. Add a little more. Yeah, it's too much paint for that spot. All right, we're almost done with this basic area. And I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to kind of cross across the camera to see. All right, so we've got our basic shape in there. And he's looking, oh, actually, we should probably do the neck too, because it should also be like the color of his bones. We'll do that too. Okay, so howdy! How are you? We are celebrating 10 years with heart disease today. And we are doing it by doing a companion piece to the Sally stained glass painting that I did last year. We are doing a Jack companion piece. So we are working on getting them filled in. I am fabulous, and I am so lucky to be alive and here with all of you sunshines today. How are you doing? Oh, my Fitbit's like, you need to move. I'm standing, I'm doing things, Fitbit, stop yelling at me. That's fabulous. I'm glad you're doing amazing. All right, so now let's take a little moment, and we did some gray on the skull, but we need to whiten some areas back up. Hi, Telly. How are you? Are you having a spectacular day? How was Kevy's stream? Oh, thank you. Thank you. Oh, that's so sweet. Mad love to Scoobert. Let's do. Aww. Welcome in, Sparkly. How are you? Is everyone having a spectacular day? Tell me. I want to know about your day. Thank you for the follow. All right, hold on. Let me take a second. Gotta remember how to do this now. Shout out at Scoobert. Hey. Oh, well, thank you. I am spectacular. I am celebrating 10 years living with heart disease today. Oh, thank you. I absolutely love chasing fairy lights. It feels like I'm always kind of chasing a little bit of an adventure. For those who are stopping in that don't know me, I am Emmy of All Crafts. I do, I guess I could classify as a variety streamer. I do painting, sewing, and I do cozy games like Dreamlight Valley, Palia, those kinds of things. So if you like a nice little chill vibe, I am your girl Friday, or in this case, your girl Wednesday. And today we are working on a Jack Skellington painting. And it's still in the very beginning stages. And the traceable for this, there is a traceable for anyone who subscribes. You'll see it in my Discord. There's a special little Sunshine Subbies area, and there are traceables that go along with the painting streams. You can go back and find the back catalog of traceables if you want to, and those videos are up on YouTube. So if you want to check out those, absolutely drop on in. I'd love to see your painting adventures, any of your crafting adventures, or just life in general adventures. I want to hear about it. Tell me about it. I love to motivate and be motivated by you too. But I don't want this to get all dry just yet, so we're gonna pop back in. Thank you all. Oh, that is so amazing, Scoobert. I am so glad you could pop in. What are you up to today? And what I'm doing now is I'm just, while the gray is still wet, I'm adding some white back in so it looks like textured skulls. Nice! Welcome in, welcome in. We are happy to have you. That way you can see, because I don't necessarily sew all of my projects on stream, but you can definitely see all of my sewing projects in there too. And if you don't know where something goes, or like, hey, I want to post something but I don't see a good thread for it, just let me know. I'll make a thread. We can do that. I want to know about everyone's happy adventures. Just some uni work and stuff? Okay. I'm not sure where in the world you are, but is this your spring break or is this your fall break? So you see, by adding a little bit of the white on top of the gray, we've now got a more like, not to be all Hamlet, but to be or not to be kind of moment happening with his head. And while I've got my white here and the black bat is kind of drying, I'm going to rinse out my brush and grab my detail brush, my little tiny brush, my literal super tiny brush. And I'm going to clean up the white for the eyes, because I want to go back over this area with a glow-in-the-dark paint, so that way at night the eyes will glow. How wicked is that gonna be? I love me some UV painting too. I did an Oogie Boogie that I was really proud of that was all in UV paint, and it looked different under black light than it did under regular lighting, and you could see all like the bugs inside of him and everything else under black lighting. It was really dope. And I'm just widening where, when I painted this in, the holes for the ears got a little lost. So we were just correcting that real fast. But we've got that in good shape. I am going to add a little more dimension in the center of the eyes here, a little more white to the very center. Because when the light is shining in there, you would see a little more, you would see inside the skull. So we do have to make it look like the eyes are hollow. Not just black, but the light shines in and goes for a while. It's a bit of an optical illusion. So by layering a little bit of white in there, we are increasing the depth of the light. And I'm just gonna keep adding a couple little layers of white until I get to where I feel like the holes of a bowling ball with light shined into it, basically. That's kind of what we're aiming for here. And it takes a little bit of layering to get there. Oh, we went a little too far, a little too far, a little too fast. So now I'm going to take a little bit of black and edge it out a little bit. It got a little too drastic too quickly. There we go. And now I'm going to outline the area in just regular black. So that way it kind of deepens the effect. There we go. That's what I'm going for. Huzzah. Okay. So with that done, we'll let the area dry, we'll let the area rest. I'll have myself a little bit of a sippy of my coffee. What kind of classes are you taking, Scoopert? If you don't mind my asking. Let's see, what area do I want to start with next? You know what, we need to fill this area in with some very light gray, much like we did with the skull. So you see how I've got my white has a little bit of little black dots in it from where I was dipping black and white together. Like with the skull, I'm going to take a little bit of that white that has just some of that gray just kind of sitting in the paint, and I'm going to work it in. Because remember, we're copying something from Tim Burton, so it's a little bit grungy, it's a little bit, well, it's a little bit off. We'll just say that. It's a little bit off, and that's kind of what we're aiming for, though. Because this was originally in claymation. So there was a lot of irregularity. Howdy, welcome in, Jeremy. How are you doing? I realize I should probably change my category, but we'll be going back to Dreamlight Valley here in a little bit. So if you came in expecting Dreamlight Valley and I'm not doing it right now, don't worry, it will be back. It's just taking a little bit of a setback. And I kind of overtouched this more than I wanted to, so we're putting it back a little bit. Little side tour with the detail brush. We are working on making a Jack Skellington stained glass style painting. So right now I'm blocking him in for color, but I will go over and we'll be adding lines and texture. And I'll at some point run and grab my Sally for a reference point, because I'm painting this as a companion to a piece I've already painted. I am fabulous. How are you, Jeremy? Are you having a spectacular day? All right, so we've got our basic Jack in, okay? Now we're gonna fill in our backgrounds. And you know what, let me go ahead and grab Sally so you guys can see what I'm kind of working on with this. So this is the Sally, and I'm making a piece that's designed to go with Sally. So I'm kind of, I posed them in the same position and the same orientation. So that's what we're working with as a reference. And we're going to do that same kind of style of background where it's sort of the burnt orange and browns to, one, pop against the black, and two, to contribute to that dark fantasy that Tim Burton creates in The Nightmare Before Christmas. Okay, so now I'm going to grab my 1-inch flat, and I'm going to put burnt umber on my palette next to the black, and I'm probably going to need a fair amount of it. I'm also going to take red ochre. No, you didn't. Is it Honey, I Shrunk the Audience, or which one is it from? I have a harder time with the live action movies, but I can name every animated movie put out by Disney. And even most of the ones that they've acquired since then. Oh, okay, so Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Right, that was the first one, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids? Or was it? Yeah, the first one was Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. All right, and I also need a little bit, and I'm going to intentionally going for I have 2 cadmium oranges in my mix here, and I have the student level, which is thinner, and the medium option, which is a little more pricey. I'm going to use this one later, but this one is great for blending when you want a hint of orange, but you don't want it to necessarily be orange. So we're going to use, there's nothing wrong with using student level paint. It can sometimes work to your advantage because it's thinner. So there's 3 levels of paint: your student level, your medium grade, and your professional level. So usually that means how much color is inside the paint. So like usually student level paint is pretty thin. So when you put it up there, since, for example, it is pretty thin, right? It's not very, it's kind of washed out. It doesn't look as concentrated as it does here in the tube. And that kind of gives you an idea of what student level paint is. So we're going to use that special feature, mixing in with the red ochre, the burnt umber, the black, and the white. And we're going to create sort of a wash in the background. Now, obviously, it's not going to stay exactly as it is. Other things are going to be happening. But for the moment, we are just sort of filling in the space, kind of making a grungy background. And you want the different variations of texture and color to show up. So you don't want to blend it all out. You want all the different colors to kind of show up in different ways, because it's what's going to create some of your texture for your background. All right, go for it. Would I rather what? I should probably add that as an option, since I know my sound alerts are broken right now because I did some changes to my audio settings and now they don't function. And I'm using black at the edges to mix it in the colors because I want it to bounce against my dark purple walls in my living room. So that's more of a me thing, but you do have to make sure you remember to paint the sides of your painting if you are using a canvas that has edges and you're not having it framed. So you want to make sure you get your tops. I'll do the bottom last. Would you rather fight 100 ants grown to the size of people? All right, so 100 ants grown to the size of people. That sounds horrifying. Or 1,000 people shrunk down to the size of ants. And how could you fight them without any weapons or objects at all? Well, I definitely don't want to deal with 100 ants the size of people. That is horrifying. But I feel like if it was 1,000 people, like the size of tiny ants, I could probably just use a pressure washer. Since that's already on my, oh, without any objects. Without any objects. That's right, you had a caveat there. Do my feet count as an object? Do my feet count as an object? Can I squish them like little cockroaches? Do I care about these people? I guess that's the better question. I mean, you said fight, so I'm assuming that there's a premise here. So yes, I would choose the 1,000 people shrunk to the size of ants, and I would squish them with my feet. Or sit on them. I might just sit on them. Can I sit on them? I mean, even if they bit me in the butt, it would be a lot like an ant biting you in the butt. It would hurt, but you'd live. Yes, I would sit on them. That's what I would do. I would just honk. I would do deep squats and squish them with my butt. That was a fun would you rather. What would you choose? Oop, my background noise went away. Oh, it moved into rainy jazz. Oh. There we go. Oh, I like that. It's already blending into the darkness. So, fun fact, in my studio, I have actually all of my overhead lights turned off, and it's just this directional light that you're seeing that's directly casted onto my painting, because otherwise I wind up with too many shadows and it makes it hard for anyone watching me paint to see what's happening. Oh, this is going to be hard. Okay. I'm going to want my angle brush. Yeah, I need it. Stepping is funnier? Okay. In my head, I'm picturing stepping on people as like stepping on tiny Legos, and I somehow think that would hurt more than just sitting on them. All right, I'm going to switch over to my angle brush because I don't want to necessarily paint over areas I've already started on. So I'm going to put a little bit of all the colors on my brush. I won't be able to put as much on there. They'd be way tinier than that. Okay. All right, and to do this area, I'm gonna trace it first with my angle brush and then move the paint in the direction I want after it's already placed down. Oop, got a little bit of a clop there. And we kind of want it to look kind of washed out, dingy, gross. Like we were wanting it to look sort of industrial almost. Like an abandoned building. Hi, Katie. How are you? Are you having a spectacular day? We are celebrating 10 years living with heart disease today. And I am so happy to be here with you, sunshines. I am very blessed. Nice. Oh, don't get in trouble though. Don't get in trouble. I understand if you've got to mute. Oh, we got an ad break. All right, and I need to do a little bit of cleanup up here because my brush strokes are visible and I don't like that. There. Oop. Picked up a little more paint there than I wanted. Oop, it's in an ad break, so I'll type it. Today will be a long stream. And for up here, I'm going to trace around the shape of the head and then flick the paint up so that way the paint is still directionally vertical. Eight to 14 hours. That's the goal anyway. And don't forget to do the top. Nice. So I will absolutely 100% still be streaming at that point. I took today off of work for my Life Day celebration, so I figured I'd do it up big. All right, now let's stick in some orange, red ochre, and burnt sienna. Let's get some of this orange work happening up here. And let's put some straight orange down. Let's blend this in. And let's throw some white in there, really distress it. All right, I'll see you later. Have a great day at work, Katie. And a little bit of black. And let's do some red ochre. All right, and then we're just fixing the direction of the paint so that way it goes all up. And let's work in some dark patches there. Yeah, that looks nice and scumbly. And while this is still kind of wet over here, let's work in some darker colors. There we go. That looks nice and dingy. It's dank. And let's throw in a little bit of white. Just for the giggles. Let's do some black over here. Throw in some straight orange to warm it up a little bit. And don't forget the top of your canvas and the sides. Oop. I'm gonna have to cross across the canvas for a moment. I'm sorry. I'll just hurry up and do the whole side in like a dark brown for the moment. So that way it's already kind of in place. There. All right, so let's black, white, brown, red ochre. A little more red ochre over here. Let's toss in some straight orange. And a little bit of black. Make it sort of moody. And now we'll do brown and orange and kind of outline our little shape here. And then fix the direction of the paint. We can always touch up these areas afterwards if we cross over onto our bow tie a little too much. And a little bit of dark. A little bit of the red ochre. And brown. And let's put in some straight orange. And again, we're trying to keep the final brush strokes in the vertical format. So I have to kind of go back and correct some of these, and we'll put some white in there, kind of smooth it out. There, that way the final brush strokes appear like I wanted them to. And then we'll do over here. And we'll start with brown. And then we'll fill in with, I think, a little bit of black. A little more brown, and we're fixing it so that they look like vertical brush strokes. And we'll throw a little bit of white in there, kind of smooth out the lines. And let's put a little bit of that orange in there. So that way it looks a little more consistent. All right, and we'll do orange to start with under here and red ochre. All right, move it over to vertical strokes. I'm going to pick up some of that extra paint and bring it down. And now we're going to move some brown in. And a little bit of white. And now let's capture kind of under the bottom part here. In a perfect world, I would have done the whole background first and then chalked in my design, but I didn't want to do it that way this time. I wanted this intentional, like, gross effect. Because it makes it easier when I go to do the stained glass effect to break apart pieces. All right, let's do some white and black. Throw in some orange. And a little bit of white. And let's put in a little more white. I want it to look washed out in a couple of areas. And a little bit of orange. I need to warm up that spot. All right, let's do brown and white under the underarm here. And I'm outlining it to start with before I fill it in. And let's drop in some orange. All right, so we've got that kind of area filled in. Oh, that's a little too noticeable. There. Actually, I'm not quite happy with this spot anymore. I need to, yeah. I need to tone it down a little bit. I need it a little bit darker in a couple of places. And we'll mix a little bit of water in there to help it spread the paint over the dry area. There we go. And, you know, having this like picture in a picture really helps me see areas that I think are too bright. that is definitely like an artist's trick when you're working on your work and you're not sure how you feel about it. Looking at it straight on is a different experience than when you take a picture of it and you get the perspective of it being a little further away. It changes the way you feel about painting sometimes. Yeah, I like that a little better. Okay. Now let's grungy up this side a little bit. A little bit of water. White, red ochre, black. And kind of trace the arm. And let's do our orange and black. We'll do that under the arm here. And we'll put a little bit of white under there. Right now, white and brown. Work in some orange. And a little bit of black for funsies. And so let's put a little more orange over here in the corner. A little brown. Little red ochre. Kind of start smishing it in. And a little bit of black. And let's put in a little bit of white. Hello, if you're just popping in, we are taking a temporary break from Disney Dreamlight Valley. We are painting Jack Skellington. It will be a stained glass style. It will be a companion piece to the Sally I painted last year. So for now, we are just filling in our background and then we will start that stained glass effect. I am a variety streamer. I paint, I sew, I do cozy games. I am a place where you can just stop and take a breath. I have been told I'm a great voice to fall asleep to. So if you are in that mode, you know, feel free. There's no shame in needing rest if you need rest. And if you subscribe and you join the Discord, you can get the traceables for the paintings that I work on. If you want to try your hand at following along and making your own, you can see the backlog on there and you can find those videos for the previous streams on YouTube. Right now we are mixing in burnt umber, red ochre, and cadmium orange into our background to create this kind of dingy effect that is very Tim Burton, very dirty, grimy, very textured. We are celebrating today 10 years of living with heart valve disease. I am very happy to be here with you all today. It's hard to believe there was a time where it was possible that I couldn't be. So I'm very happy. And we are just having ourselves a little bit of a chill day. Let's toss a little bit of black in there. Dirty it up a little bit. I'm trying to hit as much of the underside canvas as I can reach while it's on the easel. And I need to add a little more orange to my palette. I'm using student grade orange because I want it to be a little transparent to mix easier with the colors I'm using. So we're going to use a little bit of that orange. And after I get it on there and around the areas I'm working on, I want to make sure I correct the brush strokes to be vertical. And we'll put orange and brown here. And let's toss a little bit of white in there too, just to lighten up a little bit. Oh, a little more than I wanted. Let's take a little bit of black and fix it. Kind of, there we go. All right, now all we've got to do is this under area around this tail, this part of his coat tail. And a little bit of orange. Warm it up. And a little bit of brown. All right, now that I've got the majority in, I'm going to take a moment and just random smatter some other colors on there, some more layer of color, but I want my brush to be wet for this, so that way it doesn't create a bunch of visible brush strokes. I'm just washing on some orange in a couple of places, and you can see it's not like a vibrant orange. Once you stick it on, it kind of blends in a little bit, and that's what we want. We're trying to warm up the color so that it looks old, rusty, maybe the area has been left neglected. Maybe that's why he looks sad. And I want to take this along the side a little bit here too. And let's add some over here. And there. I basically just wanted to use the leftover of the orange that was on my palette. All right, having done that, I'm going to rinse my brush. And I want my brush to still be a little wet. And I'm going to take some of my white, and I'm going to do that with the white too. I'm just going to create a couple of like washed out areas. And I don't necessarily mind if the brush strokes are a little bit visible for this. I kind of want it to look that way. And again, I want my brush to remain wet for this. So I'm just adding a little water to the brush before I dip it into the white. So that way it does the smear effect that I want. And if you over smear, it's not a big deal. You can always course correct if you feel like you've overdone it. You just have to let it dry first. That area I may have overdone. Let's work some brown back in. Maybe some black. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. All right, so now I'm going to rinse my brush and set it aside. I'm going to go back in and outline the areas that I've completed in black. And I want this to be a little on the chunky side, but I'm still going to use my fine brush to do this. And I need to put some more. You know what? Let's use black metallic for this. Metallic black. This should have a little bit of shine to it, because this is what I'm going to say is my outline. Sort of like the metal in stained glass is usually, well, it's metal, so thus it's shiny. Oh, I see a spot I didn't finish. Hold on. I found a spot in the in-between arm that didn't get done. There. Okay. You will want your brush to remain wet for this, so that way the paint drags easier. And it'll be easier for me to do this upside down, but we'll flip it later. Just start in the middle. You just want to be conscious to not stick your hands in your paint. So I'm just outlining my jack details in this black shiny metallic. One, it will help it bounce back against the background, and two, it'll continue with the illusion of the thought of a stained glass painting. And this is a good way to also do any corrections. If you overpainted an area, you'll be able to outline it and fix it. I don't imagine the camera is picking up the shine all that well, but the black paint is quite shiny. If you're wondering how to use the traceables, you can use the traceables by using a projector, by using graphite paper and then pressing it up. You can also grid it out and draw it on with a grid. There's a lot of different ways to utilize a traceable to make it easier for yourself. You do not have to draw in order to be able to paint. It helps, but these are not exclusive concepts. You can do one without knowing the other. And painting is relatively a simple discipline with a little patience and a little practice. I actually started with YouTube tutorials a few years ago and enjoyed them so much that I started teaching my own paint classes for my own designs. I do actually do like paid paint parties and that kind of thing as well. Something like Painting with a Twist, if a franchise like that exists near you. Except for I go to you instead of you coming to a studio. I do sell some of my previous artwork. Those are up for sale in my shop. That link should be on my Twitch page. All right, I lost a little bit of water. I need to redampen my brush. Okay. Having water on your brush definitely helps with getting a clean line. Oh yeah, that's starting to look sharp. Heck yeah. All right, and I'm gonna flip the canvas once so that way I can paint the underside, but it makes it easier for me to reach to do the outline work without sticking my hand into the areas I've already gotten wet and have worked on again. If you didn't already know, I am a Halloween bride. We care very much about Halloween in my household. You may find yourself occasionally wanting to hold your breath when you paint. Don't do this. Breathe. So we've got that basic part in there. Now we're almost done with our initial outline. And then we will start with putting in our actual stained glass lines. Oh, I'm so happy with how this is coming out. He is looking sharp. And we will just fill that in. We will let his button be a shiny piece all on its own. And add a little water to my brush. It's gotten a little thick on me. All right, outline all of our little wispies here. Oop, need water on my brush. We are just having ourselves a chillaxing day here. And we're gonna go on the head. And then I'll grab an even smaller detail brush to outline around the eyes and the bat's face of the tie. We'll course correct that spot with some white in a minute. That spot got a little away from me. Fix that real fast right now. I'm gonna use my tiny little detail brush. And I'm just gonna cover up where I had a whoopsie. There. Okay. My acrylic paint is safe. Sometimes I'm too lazy to dip something into the brush. I won't die, I promise. And now for this side. And around the eyeballs. All right, now let's outline our little bat. Being very careful. You know what, no, we won't do that. We'll just anchor your elbow down so you don't be tempted to put your hands into your paint. Okay, so we've got all of our outline in, and I'm gonna go ahead and paint the bottom real fast while it's upside down. And I do need to remember to bring his feet all the way down. All right, so we got that part in. We'll go ahead and flip. All right, so we've got our basic premise in. Now we're gonna have some fun. Well, actually, no, I need to draw in my lines first for this suit jacket. I lied, I'm not quite done yet. So now, let's fill in Jack's lines on his pinstripe suit. So the paint that I was actually working on should be dry enough at this point that it shouldn't be a problem. So I'm going to keep my brush wet. And I'm just using my cheap student white paint because it's very thin. And that's our goal here. And I just want to do a couple like hints of lines. They don't have to be, they can be partially see-through, that's fine. We're just creating like this concept of, hey, there are pinstripes there. It doesn't have to be perfect. I got started in this style of painting after I did a mermaid goblet of fire painting, and I really loved the texture on it. Oh, that is so ace. Okay. So happy with that right now. All right, now the arm. And this is why the water is important. It lets the paint drag on for longer, so you have one continuous line. And they can be a little crooked, because remember, Jack's stripes are not perfectly straight. They're a little wiggly wongly. Okay, and then we'll do the vertical stripes here. Again, make sure you keep your brush wet. So we've got some of our stripes in. Now we'll do the same on the other side. And I'm gonna have to reach across, I'm sorry. Right, so we've got those stripes. Now let's get our vertical ones in. Oh, I am so in love with this. I could stop right now and feel like I've got a complete painting. We're not, but we could. And I'll go ahead and finish going down. All right, and we'll do the other side. Right, so we've got our tails all striped up. Now let's get our pants. This will be the longest stripe we've got to do, so make sure you got enough water on your brush. Oh, the line kind of broke a little bit there. All right, let's do a couple more. Oop. And maybe one more on each side that goes all the way down, but really, really thin. Oop. Didn't have enough water on my brush. Okay. All right, so we've got our pants in play. Now, let's stained glass it up. Oh, I didn't do the outline of the silver on that side. Whoops. I missed a side. I need a thicker brush. The light will tell you when it's shiny or when something is wet too. Cool. Now we're properly all the way outlined. Now let's look at our Sally here. In the background of Sally, I have some pumpkins. I don't know that I think we'll necessarily do pumpkins on this one. Maybe we'll do like a tombstone hanging off the side. Maybe a pumpkin on one side and a tombstone maybe on the other. What do you think? Tombstones, yay or nay? You know what? Let's do it. Let's chalk it out. Let's grab ourselves a piece of chalk. I think I've got one back here someplace. Yeah. Chalk is thy friend. Because you can, on dry paint, you can use chalk, and if you don't like something, you can use a little bit of water to eliminate the mark if you just want to see how something is going to look. So we're going to play with the idea of a pumpkin. I don't want to cross over it, but maybe a pumpkin kind of like there. And let it fall off the side. And then maybe on this side we'll have, I'll grab a ruler real quick. You won't notice it while you're painting, but later when you're hanging it on your wall and things aren't straight, it will drive you bonkers. And you'll wonder why it doesn't work. So I think I want to make it like one of those ones that's narrower and then wider at the top. So maybe like, oh, not enough. That's not enough tilt. Not enough tilt. I kind of want it to go way over. Oh, I see. That's not going to work. Ultimately, I envision the top of it. We'll do that first. Going kind of from there to there. I guess it was sort of right. Well, I won't go over where I just put wet, but... And then... kind of... I kind of want it to go over the edge. Like that. And maybe let's add a shape to it. I'll grab a coloring book real quick. So I confess, I bought this coloring book 6 years ago, and I have colored nothing in it because I use it for reference images. So I'm looking for, here we go. I knew there was a tombstone and some tombstones in here. So we've got these as tombstones. I'm thinking I maybe like the one on the end with rip. I maybe won't necessarily put rip on there, but I like the shape of it. So I am going to use this as a tool for shaping my cutout there. To get the shape of what I want for my tombstone. I think I like that. I almost think this one might need to be a little narrower here. No, that doesn't work. This is why you try a few ideas until you find something you like. It was better the way I had it. That's okay. Okay, so we've got that in place. I think we'll do some... I don't know, maybe the pumpkin should be in front of the tail and then this one should be behind it. What do you think? In front of or behind? I did behind on Sally. I'll do behind on this one too. So we'll erase the extra lines, but that helps us keep the line consistent. Oop, I hear nows happening. I have a mischievous puggle. You never know what could be happening. There. Okay. I like that. I think we're good for that. All right, so let's go ahead and fill in these shapes, and then we can start our stained glass effect. Although I think I'm going to change my sound. I don't want rainy jazz. Okay. Now let's grab our, I think our angle brush would be a good fit for this. Okay, so I'm gonna, oh, I need to put more black on, regular black on my palette to fill in this area. And I'm gonna need more of my orange, and so I'm gonna need some yellow. And no, I want the good orange. I want my cadmium level 2 orange for this, because I'll need to paint over where I've done work already, and you want better coverage. And a good trick for that is to put white down first and then paint on top of it. Okay, so let's start filling in our tombstone. We'll fill it all in black first. And then we'll add in our gray and details to make it look weathered. I'm trying to keep all the brush strokes in the direction of the way all of my vertical lines here are formed, to tell the story of the individual object. It's telling its own fun little story, separate from Jack. It's having its own little moment. And this is part of what elevates doing like a portrait style painting, is that it's just like when you do modeling in real life. There's a difference between standing for a photo and posing for a photo. The context matters. So we are creating a context. And when my paint is dry, I can remove my chalk lines. But I want to make sure that I remember to get the sides here, where my tombstone goes over the side here. Okay, so we've got that in there. Let's go ahead and throw in a little white to weather it up a little bit. We still want it to be darker than Jack, but we don't want it a solid white. And just a little bit of white, work it in. And we're gonna add a little more white towards the middle here, because this would be where someone's name was inscribed. I'm not gonna put one because that's a little too morbid for me. even for me, there are things that are just, you know, not something I want to do. Naming a tombstone is one of them. And now I'm going to rinse off that brush and go for one of my smaller detail brushes. And we're going to create some etching. So we're going to have we're going to say that the inside is a little recessed. So we're going to have light hitting the corner of this tombstone. And this is meant to be a little sloppy. You're not meant to overthink this part. We're just sort of giving it a little bit of a frame. And a couple of extra lines, kind of telling the story of it. And maybe we'll scumble a little there, like it's someone's unreadable name is there. And we'll darken a piece of it back up, a little bit of black. We are just creating little squiggly lines, like there's stuff here that is worn away by time here in the center. And we should probably continue that down here a little bit too. Yeah, I like that. Okay, and now we're gonna darken the edges a little more. And we're gonna hit the top edge of it a little more, because again, we're creating this recessed piece. Okay. I'm pretty happy with that. All right, now let's go ahead and outline it in our metallic. Because if this is stained glass, and all these individual colors are connected with metal. And I have to remember to hit the bottom side of this too. But I can do that later. It's just black. It's not like a fancy mixed color. Okay. Now let's pop in our orange. We'll start with our white. And we'll go back to our angle brush. And because orange is a very see-through color, we need to generate a base for it to go on first. So even though it's all going to be white, I'm kind of still maintaining these lines so that way it shows like you paint differently when you're painting in between lines to help generate a feeling of individuality for each little rind here. And to that end, I'll go in between them to help maintain that specificness. And then outline this so that way I don't accidentally paint over it. All right, I need some more white as I fling paintbrushes everywhere. Oh. Whoop. And this is just going to make it easier when we go to add the orange, so that way it doesn't immediately like get lost in the background that we already painted. All right, and now we'll do the last one, and then we'll go back in and fill in the middle pieces. And it's very important that your directionality of your brush strokes when you're doing this white area is like the shape of the rind, because these will be visible underneath. I'm not worried about the stump because that's going to be brown and black. Now you can see, like, because I painted them separately, it is showing even in white that these are separate rind pieces, and it makes it easy to detect that when you go to add your overlayers, so that way you can make sure that your pieces make sense. All right, so we've got our basic pumpkin shape in, and I need to do the underside too. So I'm going to lift it up real quick and do the underside. This part won't matter as much, but let's go ahead and do our black while we're right here. Oop. Okay, just so that part's already done. Rinse off our brush. And while it's still wet, we're going to go ahead and start adding in our orange. And I'm going to outline and then kind of drag it down. I'll be outlining the shapes of the rind in black because this will be done for stained glass style, but we're just sort of filling in that space right now. A lot of the details will be added later. And we'll do the next one more with a little bit of a yellow, because we're telling a stained glass story ultimately. And so we would see in stained glass work a lot of color, a lot of differentiation. So you want that story to be in there, to be visible. I want to just make sure I'm careful not to cover up Jack's tails. Right, now let's do some yellow. And I'm not rinsing my brush in between these because I do want some of that orange to pick up and be in there. This is more about just like good composition for it, because if the stained glass window had light going through it, you would see some of the prismatic colors of the neighboring pieces showing through. Ooh, I'll have to touch up that area. I covered some of Jack's coat. And then orange again. And I'll go back and add some of the yellow into the orange too, but after I get the base layer in there. Like, this is all base painting right now. We are not into any of the detail work yet. Not really. We are still just setting the stage. If you are tuning in for the first time, welcome in. I am Emmy of All Crafts. I do painting, sewing, and cozy game streams. We'll be doing this painting and then we'll be going into Dreamlight Valley. So you see I mixed in some of the yellow into the orange there, and now I'm going to take a little bit of that orange and smother it in a little bit there. Oop, we went a little heavy. Course correct. All right, so we still have a very strong division for which pieces are which, but we're still able to tell that some of these make a different shape. So that's going to help us later. So I'm going to rinse off. Actually, no, we'll mix that in with the brown here and include it in with the stump. That's not a bad idea. We'll let it happen. And I'm just using burnt umber, plain burnt umber for the stump. And I'm going to add in a little bit of black. All right. Rinse off. Now we'll outline it in our metallic black with our detail brush. Again, making sure our brush is wet so we have a nice clean line. Right, and now we'll outline the rind pieces. And this is a good time if you overdid it with filling in your pumpkin to touch up your jack. This is a good time for that. You're already right in the area. Just resharpening the line. There. All right, let's finish our pumpkin. And make sure your lines go down to the bottom of your canvas. All right, now let's outline the stump. All right, so let's go back and reference my Sally. All right, so this was Sally. This is the companion piece. So next we got to do all of these black lines that are going to make up the stained glass effect. And then we'll go back into each individual piece to add light and refraction to each individual piece of glass that we're cutting. So here we go. I'm going to want to use, for the outer bits, I'll use my slightly larger detail brush. Okay. I need more water on my brush. All right, we're going to start with a couple of random lines. Oh, I'm going to need more paint. And I'm going to connect this one to the stump. Okay, let's grab some more paint. All right, and let's say that that is going to be a shape that comes off like this. Oh, we need more water. We need a lot more water. And let it go off the side there. And we're going to say that point continues on to the side there. And still too big of a line. Let's break up this piece. And we want a lot of curving lines. This would have been a masterpiece. And we're going to drag this line down. We're going to drag this line to there. And this one's going to cut right through that center void there. That would have been a connection point. We're making kind of a star off on the side there. And this piece is still a little too big. We'll do that. And make another small little piece here. And we're going to break that piece up. And we're going to say the elbow is going to come down into there. And that part's going to go like that. And that line's still a little too big. And we need to break this piece up some. We'll do that. That one's way too big. We'll do a little companion parallel piece for that one because it's up at his head. Let's break you here. And a couple of maybe like jagged pieces like that. They don't have to all be curvy. I'm going to say that line's going to go there. You know, why not? We'll let that be kind of a geometrical piece happening. And we'll let that part just top off there. And let's break that piece there. We're just breaking these into lots of fun small little pieces. And I think that one needs to be broken up again. Okay, so we did most of that side. I'm doing the background first before I go into the body. Let's do one this way, one that way, maybe one this way. Ooh. Okay. And let's do a straight line there going down. Maybe a couple of crooked lines. Yeah, I'm liking how that's coming together. All right, now let's do a little swervy action. Let's let this one come off the side. Oop. Need some more water on our brush. All right, and this one's going to just continue there. That one's going to continue to that point that we made with that triangle. Nice. It definitely helps like seeing it over there as well. Okay, and a couple of crazy lines. And up and over. A couple of straights. Yeah, I'm liking that. I'm digging that. Let's see. I don't know how I want that shape to go. I like it. That works for me. A couple of straight lines for variety. Yeah, I like that. That works for me. And a couple of straight lines there. A curvy one here. And a couple of straight ones. Now we need a couple of lines inside here. Okay, so I've got the gist of my background piece done. Although I do think I want to extend that over a little bit, break up that piece. And maybe this piece. Okay, so I'm pretty happy here. Now let's break up the body. And I'm gonna use smaller ones for this. I'm gonna use my smallest detail brush because I'm gonna break up my pumpkins. All right, so we've got our first little shape going on there. Now let's do this side. All right, so we've got our basic kind of thing happening here. So let's do a couple different things here in the center. Let this piece be a little bigger. Oop, I need water on my brush. You definitely want them to be like jagged. You don't want them to all be the same. So if you find yourself gravitating to a specific pattern, you might want to break it up periodically. Oop, water. All right, so you got the gist of how we do this with the pumpkin. Now we'll do it, yes, even to his face. Although I probably should add his like bits to his mouth first. Just so that way I don't forget to do it. All right, now we'll. All right, I'm going to say that this shape of his head, that eyepiece is going to connect there. So the thing with stained glass is when you've got cut out pieces, the edges do have to connect to something else because that's how they would have had to have done it. So I am linking those together a little bit for that reason. And the same way, I'm linking the smile all the way up. That's more or less the same way I did Sally, but I had a couple of more pieces happening. Connected there. Yeah, it should be good. All right, now we're gonna break apart his bat. Need some more water on my brush. We're gonna connect that one there. Okay, I'm pretty happy with how that's coming together. Not unhappy. Right, now we gotta break up the chest. Need more water on the brush. Okay, I'm here for it. All right, now let's break up the actual jacket. And this one we'll be breaking into the actual lines of his shape here. And we'll break that part there. So even though I've done my lines in a different angle than what I'm working in, it's still very clear what's happening. And that's kind of what we're aiming for with this. Oh, yeah. That one looks weird. I gotta fix this spot. Okay, now let's do over here. So even though you can still tell the painstaking work that was done to get that striped effect, but we haven't lost that. That's still there. That's still telling its story. Right, and now for the sleeve. I'm gonna break those pieces up a little smaller down here. Right, and I'm not gonna split them down the center of the crotch. That's just mean. We'll cut diagonal. Okay. It's having a little bit of a moment. Ooh, yeah. And we'll let that one kind of curve that way. Oh, yeah. Okay, so we have broken him apart. I do want to do another piece there. Yay. Hold on. Yeah, okay, so we've got them broken apart now. Now we're gonna add in our details. This is where the labor is. Oh, I didn't break apart the... It won't really be noticeable right now, but I should still break this apart. Being that it's black on black. Now that part's been broken apart too. All right, so now let's add in our light details. So almost everywhere where we've drawn a line, we need to go in and add a couple of quick strokes of white because light is going to be hitting these things. Not everywhere and not on every side, but we do need some light in each part of these because it's going to help tell the story about what's happening here. So I'm just using my tiniest detail brush and I'm just kind of hitting two sides of every side, like two sides of every shape that I've created. At least two sides. And you can already kind of see what this is doing on just the pumpkin. And I haven't even hit it with another color yet. It's just white at this point. And we want to make sure we do this in the stem too. And we're going to do this a little here inside of the jack as well. One, it will help define where these jagged points are. And for the dark background, I'm just going to be flicking in like the corners. In which sides you choose to put paint, I definitely recommend aiming for the darker side so it casts more of a shadow. Like obviously the dark areas around Jack make good points to then highlight Jack. Or just areas that were in the background where it was darker to start with. All right, I'm going to flip it upside down to make it a little easier to work with so I don't stick my hands in my own work. And oddly enough, we'll be doing this with black as well. Because naturally, where there is light, there are shadows. You're still going to do this over the white part of the skull because it will hit you right. Oh, likewise. Have a wonderful day. Thank you. I hope you rest well. Have a wonderful, wonderful rest. Recuperate. Do good things for yourself. It was nice to meet you. And we're also going to do this inside the eye. And a little in the mouth. Thank you. Oh, I love the little ghosty. The ghosty is one of my favorites. Wow, this is coming together so great, guys. I am so excited. I love it when a project comes together. And we gotta remember to do inside here too. Because the bits that are inside the tombstone are going to be the hardest to actually see. Oh, guys, I can't believe how great this is coming out. Oh, I couldn't have been more thrilled if I tried. I just absolutely love The Nightmare Before Christmas. And we got to remember to do inside this gray area too. All right, let's flip it back around. I've kind of worked my way around the edges. I know it's looking a little bit much right now, but we're going to tone some of it down here in a minute. So we're going to add some black back in to add shadow. We've highlighted a whole lot. We've told a lot of stories. Right, so we got all of our white in. Now let's add some low white. Let's add our black. We won't necessarily need that in here. We'll do something else in like these bright shapes. But this is more for like inside Jack himself. Particularly where it gets like a little busy. Oh, I got spots where I didn't hit highlights at all. There we go. Yeah. All right, now let's take some orange and do some stuff in our background. All right, I need some more of my cadmium, my good quality orange. And we're going to use some of this around the areas that have around Jack. That's going to help Jack bounce a little more. Oh, yeah. That's going to make him look like he's glowing with the energy of Halloween. Glowing with the energy of Halloween. Oh, yes. The energy. I can't see because of the light over here, but let's... Okay, I think that's almost all the way around him. All right, so we've got our pop of orange nearly all the way around him. Let's get down the legs. Ooh, yeah. All right, now we're going to do the same thing with pad yellow. We're going to go a little further out away from where we did our little orange break lines. So that way it looks even more like he's glowing with the energy of Halloween. Ooh, I'm getting shivers. Okay, and now we're going to fling a little bit of this yellow in random places and then the rest of the background. So that way it doesn't look out of place that it's glowing so hard around Jack. But this is just little strategic, like little flicks. Not even whole lines. We're just warming up the rest of it a little bit. All right, I think we are ready to sign this thing. Almost, hold on. I need to put some, there we go, in the stump there. All right, how do we think it turned out? Actually, let's make one minor adjustment. I don't like that bit there. Yeah, okay. Let's see. I see a couple of other places that could use a little bit. Something over here, I'm not picking up enough yellow. Or at least it's not picking up on camera enough. And I feel like I need it for balance. Okay. I'm satisfied. I feel like I can call it done. All right, I am gonna sign first with white, and then whenever it dries, I'll do it in orange. All right. So that's it for that.